Yes, welcome to the No Stay Project here on Whoa, I almost made that mistake. That's one of many of the mistakes that will be made in the show today. We know how this typically goes. But on my YouTube channel, No Stay Project, where we are live from the Fortified Compound every Wednesday from 3 to 4 Pacific Standard Time. Glad to be with you here for an additional hour of Anarchy Radio right here on my YouTube channel. And I will be live on Saturday. I will not be from Libertopia. So Libertopia starts tomorrow in San Diego, and I'm sorry I'm not able to be there. I'm not the controlled opposition people think, 2 or 3 people think that I am, because I have no budget. I'm not able to go. I just don't have it. And $4 a gallon gas in California is not the only reason, but it's a pretty big reason. Gas and lodging alone would have been about $700. So don't have it. So I'm sorry that I am not able to do that, but I will have the usual broadcast, 3 hours of Anarchy Radio on the LRN stream then. If you want to join me on the big show, my brain is kind of mush. I spent most of the day talking to tax agents, and less than an hour ago, got off the phone with a lawyer with the Franchise Tax Board. And I tell you, they not easy to speak to. Although this guy Andrew, not too bad. So if you need help prepping for court, you want to learn how to defend yourself, or how to better take apart people's arguments and show that they don't know what they're talking about, then you tune into the right place. We use the Socratic method, basically just asking questions and to bring out that they don't know what they're talking about. Honest people will just admit that. But then you get tax agents and people who work for bureaucracies. Honesty, really not your strong point there, guys. So I spoke to 2 employees with the Franchise Tax Board. It was a lawyer before I did the big broadcast. Maybe I should do that. Just do my best not to take... It was just something I didn't think he was going to call back that soon. But right before a show, it just makes your brain... I mean, my gosh, to get into this. Well, first I did speak with an IRS employee, and it took us a while to get this squared away, and I wasn't able to have the client on the line, so we had to do things in general. And basically what this is dealing with Agent Michael Marconi from the San Francisco office. And he thought it was okay that even though he had no evidence to support his claim of jurisdiction, he thought the right thing to do was to go ahead and do the levy anyway. So I had asked his supervisor that, do you think it's fair and consistent with due process to proceed admittedly without evidence of jurisdiction? Like, yeah, of course. Now, he eventually seemed to back off of that. But, I mean, the idea that you can proceed knowing you have no... It's one thing to proceed, and you don't know. They honestly think that they have the jurisdiction. It turns out later that they don't. I'm not talking about that. That's bad. I'm talking about where the agent is getting set to destroy somebody's life, because that's what a 100% garnishment on your salary will do. They probably don't. I mean, even after the garnishment, they're probably looking at getting rid of you because they don't want the IRS in their lives any more than they already are. And here they think that you've invited them in. So the employers tend to take it out on the employees. So it definitely ruins your life. And the idea that you can do that knowing you have no evidence. And so the best that the supervisor was able to do was say that the Constitution applies because it says so. This was a common theme, by the way, today. That doesn't strike you as a circular argument? Nope. Wow. That's the best you got? It's the best you have? Oh, I tell you. I had reported on the show that I had a conference call on Tuesday with the Franchise Tax Board with a lawyer named Greg. That didn't happen. So I wound up speaking with him today. It turns out I was wrong. I assumed that because he was with the legal department that he was a lawyer. He's not. He's some kind of analyst or something. He's not a lawyer. He was unable to present any evidence to support the claim. He really thinks it's true, though. He's really confident that they have a right to do what they're doing. Really confident. Can't prove it. Doesn't care. Doesn't give a damn. So what he did was accuse me of being condescending and angry. I admit sometimes, yeah, you get a little frustrated when you got people who are literally stealing and destroying somebody's life, and they're abafungal. They don't care. We're not dealing with nice people. We're talking about destroying people's lives. And they do it without a care in the world. They don't care. So yes, normal people get a little frustrated to be powerless to stop these people from stealing. He said I was condescending. I mean, it was a complete shift from the way he was last week, where he was laughing and he was jovial. Oh, I hope you're not recording this because this just doesn't make me look too good. Yeah, because that's what's important. He said that I was fishing. And then he lied, saying that this is playing the half retard card, that nothing they say will satisfy me. He was saying that, remember, he's the guy last week that said that he felt like I was pushing him into a corner and then I was going to attack him. Yeah. Yeah. So he lied, saying that I changed the question because I don't like the answer that I'm being given. So I have about 50 gigs worth of radio audio on markstevens.net to show I've been asking the same damn question. Same question. You guys operate under the presumption that if I'm physically in California, your laws apply. Uh-huh, yep. Do you have any proof that that's true? That just because I'm physically in California, your Constitution applies to me? I'm not changing the question. But you have to lie and be dishonest when you steal for a living. So he tries to divert all this. He's insisting I'm changing the question. I'm not. But that's what you have to do when you have no evidence. So he tries to turn, why do I and everybody else in California, why do we pay taxes? Oh, I don't know, because it's compulsory? Because you do it like what I think everyone is doing it to avoid having your organization destroy their lives? They don't want to go to prison? That's why people pay taxes. Do I have to keep going further? Just anything but answering the question with actual evidence. And again, he tries to claim that I was asking what section of the Constitution. No. I already know it's Section 32 or Article 32, whatever it is there. That's where the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act is, which is another thing. Why don't you just go to court? How do you go to court and sue the Franchise Tax Board when there's the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act that not one of these criminals in a black robe will even acknowledge? It's not a matter of my bias. They won't even acknowledge it. Two, if the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act isn't a bar to suit, and they've destroyed your life with 100% garnishment, and maybe they've done worse, like taking your house, seizing your house, you've got nothing left to then fight their lawyers. How disingenuous is it? Like I had to say to the actual lawyer in the other call. If your principles of right and wrong are dictated by what some piece of garbage in a black robe, some effing lawyer in a robe says, this problem is much bigger than just what my client's dealing with. Good Lord, people. That is like further proof. Right and wrong has nothing to do with it with these people. Legal and illegal as dictated by a lawyer in a black robe. Someone who, as far as his psychological makeup, we know for absolute fact that it's just somebody who sought out a position of domination and no accountability. So we're going to take moral decision. Look to them for moral decisions or decisions of what's right and wrong. So, you know, this Greg Heninger, you know, you lied. He's with the Franchise Tax Board in Sacramento. You lied. I'm not changing the question. You know what it comes down to is these guys think that a written instrument is magical. It applies just because someone said it did. And that is really what the lawyer then followed up with. I just, you know, was disappointed, of course, that Greg had to be just your typical bootlicking bureaucrat. And I asked him the question too. Now maybe we can cut through all this bias. Maybe there's some moral center with this guy. No. But so I asked him, if I was to do things just like your organization, the state government, and I forced strangers to give me money, would you consider me a criminal? And he wouldn't answer the question. Wouldn't answer the question. That's because you know deep down your organization is criminal from beginning to end. And he had already said that nobody he likes paying, you have to pay. You have to pay. Yes, it's compulsory. I get that. And what I'm saying is because it's compulsory, you have no evidence these rules and these laws, this magical instrument called the law, you have no evidence it applies. So I'm talking to the actual attorney, and his name is Andy Maura. And he wasn't even aware of the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. This is an attorney with the Franchise Tax Board who's not up to date on the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act, which protects his agency so they can do whatever the hell they want to people. They don't have to worry about the courts intervening. Not that the courts ever would intervene. Well, he says, well, there are tax cases in there all the time. Yeah, there are tax cases, but are there cases in there challenging jurisdiction? Are there cases in there prior to payment? Aber Fangol, no, there's not. They don't let you. Well, we go by the rule of law. Well, the law says under Section 455 of the Evidence Code that judges are supposed to take judicial notice of Supreme Court rulings, state and federal. Well, CalFarm versus Deukmejian. There is an exception to the Anti-Injunctive Tax Act. They won't recognize it. You go up on a petition for writ of mandate to force them to take judicial notice because it's a mandatory part of the job. And what did the Court of Appeals do? Oh, you didn't argue an abuse of discretion, which is a nice way of saying, Abba Fangol, we're not going to hear this regardless of the merit. Because for those who may not know this, a petition for writ of mandamus is to get the lower court to perform a mandatory non-discretionary function such as judicial notice. So to say that we had to abuse discretion was just a lie. And yes, lawyers lie all the time. And so what it came down to with Andy, when I asked him for evidence, and he freely admits that if you're physically in California, the laws apply. And he tried to say, well, if you're a resident, yes, they apply. Well, that's a thing. I don't have to be there for 6 months. I could just cross over like I did the other day. So then he did agree that whether someone was a resident was a legal conclusion that still hinged on, do the laws apply? Is there evidence proving that the laws apply because you're physically in California? So when I pressed him to be responsive to the question, he really couldn't. The best, hold on to your butts, everybody. I haven't heard this in a while. When pressed for facts proving this written instrument called the Constitution applies to me because I'm physically in California, and Andy Maura of the Franchise Tax Board Legal Department, a lawyer with a Juris Doctorate degree, this is an educated man, stated, that's the way it works. Couldn't back it up. That's the way it works. That is, and he believes that that is evidence. That's actually evidence to support their claim that the Constitution applies because I'm physically in California. That's the way it works. And he actually stated He believes that that is evidence. So your opinion being that that's the way it works, that's proof to these people. And if I don't like it, why don't we just take them to court? Oh. Wow. He also, and I had him confirm this, the Constitution applies because it says so. And despite having an advanced university degree, does not believe that that is a circular argument. So, but he makes his money by if he works at the Franchise Tax Board, so of course he's got a built-in bias. He's not going to see his own agency as doing something immoral. So when I asked him the question, if I was to do things like your agency or organization, and I forced strangers to give me money, would you consider me a criminal? He refused to answer also. He tried to spin it that he's not going to analyze. Unbelievable. If I said, would you consider me a criminal if I burned your building to the ground purposely? Well, I'm not gonna, give me a break. But, if I don't pay taxes, you're ready to call me a criminal. Oh, but get a question that cuts right through all that bull crap. Oh, no, all of a sudden, no, not going to analyze it. Because if you did answer the question, it would have to be, yes, of course you would see me as a criminal. And I would be a criminal, just as well as you and your organization are criminals. When you force perfect strangers to give you money, you are a criminal. And you can say, that's the way it works. Any rapist can say that. Any armed robber. I got a gun. Put the money in the bag, bitches. But you can't. That's illegal. That's the way it works. So what it comes down to is, again, basically almost like it's the official policy that the same thing, the same stupid crap that has been parroted and brought onto this show the last few episodes. And of course, this is episode, what did I say? I said it's episode 63. Might makes right. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful for anyone. And I think any half idiot would recognize that that's a disgraceful, immoral position. Might makes right. Start trying to, and then one guy, well, are you filing returns? Are you doing this? Abafunkel, prove it. Prove it. Prove your laws apply because I have a California source. If I have a California source. Go ahead. Prove it. So this is what I was going through. And that's what it comes down to is might makes right with these people. And when you question people in this manner, and they can't support their position beyond, that's the way it works. That's what you get. That's the refuge of the dishonest. Well, Mark, that's the way it works. I can't explain it, but that's just the way it works. Just like when I asked the prosecutor up in Washington all those years ago. Exactly how or why does your Constitution apply to me because I'm physically in Washington? It just does. Well, how about I can make as much money as I want in California and not pay you taxes? Well, Mark, how does it prove it? That's the way it is. You're not going to accept it from me. Why? Okay. So that reminds me, one of the things we were able to get through to with the supervisor at the at the IRS. They want to deny somebody any appeal at all consideration. They want to just say, frivolous argument, we're going ahead with the levy anyway. They admittedly have no evidence. Marconi has no evidence of jurisdiction. He admitted it. Thought the levy was the better way to go. So speaking to his supervisor, the supervisor also agrees. Asking for evidence to support a claim is not a frivolous argument. And yet, they're still not wanting to stop, even though that was the basis for the levy. because he allegedly raised a frivolous argument, which they both agree, not a frivolous argument. You know who also agrees it's not a frivolous argument? Because one, it's just a question. The Supreme Court. Helvering versus Taylor and Addison versus Commission. I brought it on the show very recently, so you can reference that. Maybe I'll get it in the video also. Again, always bears repeating. But so that's where we are with that, in that their entire basis is, well, two things. They admittedly have no evidence, and their claim that it's a frivolous argument is false. So you've got two felonies right there. But they're admitting at least this part. Well, they admit they have no evidence, but they admit it's not a frivolous argument. Ay, ay, ay. Do you think that they would actually say to their lawyers if you file against them in court, no, we've already said, please don't say it's a frivolous argument. We've already... They can do it anyway. Why? Because the courts don't give a damn. They don't care. I love that. Well, if you don't agree, why don't you take it to one of the courts that are funded by us? We steal the money and give it to the judge. Yeah, there's no bias there. How about doing the right thing now? How about realizing, like an adult, that's the way it works is not evidence of anything other than your bad faith and inability to support your claim. That's the way it works. Good. Well, we should start using that. Ay, ay, ay. So one of the things that I used today to get them to back off this nonsense that we're just raising a frivolous argument is to say, look, if you ask me if I earned income from a California source, and I said to you, that's a frivolous argument, sir, would you accept that as an answer to the question? And I said, well, no. Then why the hell do you expect me to accept it from you? That is exactly what you do to me. You're not answering the question. And you can lie and say, I changed my question, but you're still lying. So now I have to put it in writing. And we're back to, will you be responsive? And we know they're not going to be. But I'll put it in writing anyway, so that I could show I'm being, I have written in, evidence to show I'm being consistent and not changing my question. So imagine a cross-examination or when they're trying to audit you and they're asking you questions. Did you earn income from a California source in 2015? That's a frivolous argument. Well, Mark, that's really not, that's really not an answer to the question. Did you or did you not earn income from a California source in 2015? You're changing your question now. Ask the right... See, just turn it on them. So at least a few of them today acknowledged the obvious, that when you ask a question, it's not a frivolous argument. And questions of fact are never... I swear, it's so consistent that there has to be some kind of class that they're given. If somebody challenges your assertion of jurisdiction, just scream frivolous as many times as you can. I've actually counted over 90 times in a 30-page document the word frivolous being used. They don't see the irony in that. The irony in that is something is truly frivolous. It doesn't take 30 pages to show that. It's evident on its face. You don't need 30 pages and a team of lawyers. That's just a bunch of scumbags who are padding their bill and want to have their compadre, their accomplice, the judge, punish you as severely as possible with sanctions for daring to question their sacred cow, because we have this magical written instrument. And when we write on it, it applies to everyone. Really, where's your proof that that's true? Well, I have a prison system to back me up. Also, I have lawyers that have these advanced degrees and everyone thinks they're so smart. They'll tell you, that's how it works. And, okay, I guess I have my answer. Let's get to Don in Virginia. Don, what do you got for us today?
How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. I'm talking to a normal person now instead of one of these lawyers who can only talk in circles.
Oh, okay. I recently filed for my motions for dismissal, and I filed my motion for discovery and the Brady request that I got from you, and the prosecutor I guess he replied back and denied both of them. But I think I don't know if I still got to go in front of the judge for him to make the final decision.
Yeah, you do. And until the judge dismisses it, you got to show up. So the thing is, the prosecutor can disagree with the motion. He has no authority to actually deny the motion. He could just ask the judge to deny it. As far as discovery, that he can deny. However,
he can deny that?
Well, he can. He may not, but he can. And they do it all the time. So that is something. If he is not going to give you the discovery, you can file the motion in limine to limit the arguments he could make. And so if he's not going to present any evidence and a qualified witness to support his argument, whether it's personal jurisdiction or subject matter jurisdiction that the code applies and whatnot, he shouldn't be allowed to argue that. And yes, if you go through the archive, just in the past 6 months, we have had the motion in limine granted, which then led to a dismissal. So I would also file the motion to dismiss for prosecutorial misconduct. So you need to email me and I will get you the template for that.
Okay, on my motion to dismiss his argument, it looked like his main argument was I failed to entertain the court, whatever that means.
You failed to entertain the court? The only thing I could guess at is you didn't file it with the clerk of the court. I mean, you did file.
I filed it with his clerk. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it said. It said defendant has not ever stated a legal sufficient basis for the court to entertain his motion to strike and dismiss the summons.
Well, arguing whether there's a lack of jurisdiction is a legally sufficient argument. Now, whether the judge agrees with that or not is a completely different story. So he's trying to say that nothing that was presented is even a recognized legal defense, which is, come on. You can't argue lack of jurisdiction. We only get
to. So should I object to that motion? If he tries to block my motion, should I object to that one?
Well, you can certainly file. Well, actually, I think you can try to file a motion to strike it or a motion and say, look, my positions are legally grounded. He may not agree with them, but they are legally grounded, and it's up to the judge to decide whether he has sufficient evidence or not. Yeah,
I know when I step in front of the judge, they're gonna be like, "How do you plead?" Right?
Well,
Should I challenge the subject matter jurisdiction, or what you think?
Well, you have personal jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdictions, which are challenging, and no plea is required legally until the motion to dismiss is heard. So if he's just going to outright deny it, well, then you move on. Well, I intend on pleading guilty. Has the prosecution presented any facts to prove that just because I'm physically in Virginia that your Constitution applies to me? He may not want to hear that, and he may just wind up typically just getting a little perturbed and entering a plea of not guilty for you over your objection.
Can they do that?
Well, they may not do that. It's really unfair, and it goes against the judge's own rules or the law that they can only plead not guilty for you if you're refusing to plea, and you're clearly not doing that. So I in that video about the plea of guilty, I go through all the errors that the judge is committing and how unfair it is. So if they do something like that, file a motion to change the judge. And your basis is, so I can't get a fair trial.
And tell the judge I plan on pleading guilty if the prosecution is answer my subject, my jurisdiction. It can prove jurisdiction.
Well, what you want, you want to say, I intend on pleading guilty, and go right into your question. Has the prosecution submitted facts proving that the Constitution applies to me just because I'm physically in Virginia? And then stop. You need to definitely role play with this before you go in and tangle with the judge.
Okay. So if you don't produce the proof of jurisdiction, can they go ahead and make me go to trial?
Well, yeah, they do it all the time. They don't give it, most of the time they don't give a damn. They just don't care. So come hell or high water, because bottom line here is done. They don't have to care. It's why so many people who have huge concentrations of wealth tend not to have much empathy and give a damn about anybody but themselves, because they don't have to. people with money don't have to have empathy. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked on that. They don't have to give a damn. You and I cannot hold them personally accountable. So this is why I talked about it on the show, and I'm getting this prepared so that you can let risk management and the city council or the county commissioners, depending on who's attacking you, let them know what this judge is doing. So if you go in there and the judge lies and falsifies the record that you were refusing to plea when you weren't, let them know that this is what he's done. He's reckless. He has no regard for any principle of right and wrong, no regard for the fairness. He's going to hurt me. And if and when he does, I will be filing a claim for damages against the city's insurance. But I'm giving you a heads up. Please do whatever you can to stop this. I'm not saying, so just even if it's just to witness, I am going to be in court on this day. Could you at least have someone present to make to be a witness as to what this judge is doing and the risk that he's putting the city or the county in because of his reckless behavior?
Okay, I got one more question. Somebody said something about you can counterclaim. You think that's something I need to do also? Or?
Well, one, a counterclaim is only in a civil context, and it's not something that is even permitted in most traffic because the rules don't allow it. A counterclaim, no. And plus, I think it's better to do the motion to dismiss, hold them to their burden, and see what we can do about getting the insurance claim. Because at least with the insurance claim, if you can get it into court and beyond the motion to dismiss, you can call the judge and the prosecutor as witnesses because there is no immunity from being a witness. And they're clearly witnesses to what happened.
Okay.
I see that as more effective. I've actually never seen anyone do one of these counterclaims and get anywhere with it. Now, that doesn't mean it hasn't ever happened. I just have not seen it. And I've been involved and heard from an awful lot of people that have tried that stuff. And most of the time it's defeated because there's no rule allowing something like that in a traffic case.
So the judge tried to enter a plea for me, but he probably most likely, because I'm going to sit there whole ground to them prove jurisdiction first. And he tried to enter a plea for me. I said, I'm not trying to plea. He's going to try to enter a plea for me. Yeah. Should I object to it?
Of course. Say, objection. Are you under the impression I'm refusing to plea?
Okay. That's what
make it more. And he may say, yes, I think you're playing a game here. I said, objection. I really object to that. I do not like such a characterization. All I'm trying to do is see if the prosecution has met their burden to this point. That's all.
Okay.
Look, what they do is classic projection. All the things that they're doing and playing games and not being honest, they project that onto us. This guy actually said that not only was I condescending and arrogant, but I was harassing the franchise tax board. Said that with a straight face, Don. That's some classic projection right there, isn't it? My phone calls are harassment, but 100% garnishments of someone's wages, what do you call that? So, hey, send me a copy. I'd like to see a copy. Scan and send me a copy of that prosecutor's response because we don't usually get too many of those.
Okay, I most definitely. I send you the copy because he said the Brady request and motion discovery doesn't even apply in this kind of case because the speeding ticket is not a criminal charge punishable by jail time. Okay.
So he's right about Brady. Now, as far as discovery is still required, but they have to give it to you just prior to the trial as opposed to, in pre-trial.
Yeah, like I said, you say I don't even have the right to get discovery because I'm not facing jail time.
Well, discovery, is not necessarily isn't related to jail time. I mean, you can have a misdemeanor where they're not looking for jail time, and they absolutely have to give you discovery and Brady. But if it's not criminal and they're considering it a civil infraction, then they have to give you the discovery immediately prior to trial.
Okay, then. All right, then, Mark. I'll make sure I send you a copy of those.
Yeah. I'd like to see not legally sufficient. Okay, yeah. A lack of evidence proving jurisdiction is not a legally recognized defense. Okay, All right. Got it. Can I sue you then? So, all right. Hey, keep in touch and get into the Skype chat and do some role playing.
All right. I'll let you know what happened tomorrow when I go.
All right. Appreciate the call, Don in Virginia, and I wish him luck. We got a new caller here. It's area code 917. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on? It's Poopy from I'm calling from Brooklyn, New York. I was talking to somebody recently, and the secured party creditor came up. I mentioned that because I seen some stuff on it, and this individual pointed me to your stuff, to your website.
Really?
So I've been listening as much as I could. Was that?
Okay, there's a couple things going on. First, you have to repeat your name for me.
Poopy.
Poopy.
Yeah. I'm actually in the chat on YouTube over there.
Oh, okay. I do not get why people think that I am a proponent of these secured party creditor stuff, because I am not. I actively debunk that stuff. I am not a freeman. I am not a sovereign. I'm not a sovereign citizen. I'm not that type. And I think the secured party creditor stuff is garbage. And I think if anyone is using that, they're going to get only more trouble for what they're doing. Are you fighting something, or are you just investigating this stuff?
No, I'm way too new to this to even know what all those terms meant. I just found it very interesting, so I'm just like looking into it.
Okay.
But I do have a question. I've been hearing about the income tax being illegal for a long time, and well, first of all, my first question is, you always mention Arizona. Now, I'm guessing like that's your home state, but are these policies applied to all states, or are there exceptions?
Well, I mentioned Arizona because, yeah, that's where I am. Not that it's my home state. I was born in Cheektowaga, and I grew up on Long Island, so I'm a New Yorker there.
Oh, okay.
And I have mentioned it. It's just for ease in speaking. Sometimes I'll say Canada, Australia, wherever you happen to be, because it's all the same thing. Wherever you happen to be, they believe if you're physically in New York, then their laws apply. If you're physically
okay.
So, and that is the same everywhere. It's just that it's a little more overtly violent in places like China or Afghanistan. You know, they don't put up a front like the criminals here in Canada or Australia or New York do.
Okay, so my question is, I'm very interested in in this in regards to the income tax. So let's say hypothetically, I'm sure you had cases like this. If a person just exempts themselves from the income tax, if let's say they're working for a corporation, they exempt themselves and they're W-2, and they just pay the city and the state, what happens eventually?
Well, eventually you could get a where is your tax return, and they'll start, with that form letter. They could also do an order, a withholding order, and they can do that to the employer that you can then contest. So that is actually, in my experience, the last couple of years, it's been more common. They just do a withholding order as opposed to, hey, where's your tax return? And I would recommend anybody.
Like garnishing your wages?
Well, the garnishing of the wages. Well, it's not technically a garnishment. What they'll do is they'll do a withholding order so that they will wipe out your exempt claim and then say that they have to withhold for if you had just signed for the one for yourself. I do want to point out a couple things. If you get the where is your tax return letter, or whatever you get from the IRS or an agency, never blow it off. Respond timely. Soon, get a record started that they have no evidence. Ignoring the IRS is never a good tactic. Other thing I want to address, and I please everyone excuse me if I'm not splitting hairs here. It's very important to recognize this, because this is where where my work is going to diverge from the stuff that you brought up originally, Poopy.
Mm-hmm.
The income tax in the United States or even Canada is not illegal. Okay? It is legal and constitutional because that's what they call it. It is immoral. It is unethical. It is stealing. It is wrong, but it is not illegal. And if you follow these lines where people are trying to convince you that it is illegal, you're going to have trouble. They have, look, it's like Lysander Spooner said, any group of banditti could just call themselves a government and then legalize their robberies. And that's exactly what happens here with government. They made their robbery legal. And all this stuff you're going to see about, well, legal interpretation. Well, the courts have said that income is not, wages aren't income. Losing argument. I'll even go so far, of course, here. I got to call you Brooklyn instead. That I can't do the other.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
You want to attack these situations from a factual standpoint. If someone is saying X, Y, Z, and you don't agree with that, the best thing to do is not to say, to try to challenge them as far as, well, my interpretation of X, Y, Z is different. You want to know why they believe what they believe is true. So it's much better for you and I, especially if you're investigating this stuff, to ask them questions why they believe that that's true. Now, even if you give a free pass that your legal interpretation or what you find online from somebody else is good, that it's accurate and it is logical, trying to defend against one of these attacks, whether administratively or in court, trying to do it based on legal interpretation is a really, really bad tactic. I mean, really bad, especially from our standpoint that we're looking at the facts that it's not a government. It's just a gang of men and women forcing us to pay them, that they're a criminal organization. Okay? It's just not. So it's much better and effective to show that your accuser has no evidence to support their claim, as opposed to saying, well, I have a different interpretation of what they're saying.
So then what's the defense then? Because if it's legal and it's just a case of being unethical and immoral, so let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say marijuana. Okay, so it's unethical and immoral that they made it illegal, but it's still illegal. What's the defense here? What's the case?
Okay. So the police officer has to have jurisdiction to investigate you, right?
Right.
They'll all tell you the same thing. Their jurisdiction is based on the observation that they've seen you physically in New York, this case Brooklyn. And from that, they determined, oh, our laws apply. I have jurisdiction to investigate if I have probable cause to believe a crime is being committed. Okay, and that's where they lose all of it, because their claim that just because you're physically in New York, that means that Constitution applies, has absolutely no factual support whatsoever. And that's why you can see me confronting a Supreme Court Chief Justice here in Arizona. And it doesn't matter it was Arizona. I've done it, in Canada. I've done it in Australia. I've done it in New York. There's no evidence. So when you confront them on the proof, there's no evidence. So the cop from the very beginning can't prove jurisdiction. Well, under even their own rules, that would be it may be legal in a sense, or it may be illegal for the marijuana possession or whatnot. But you can't even get to that point because the police officer can't prove jurisdiction, and neither can the prosecutor, and therefore the judge can't. So we take it from a standpoint of the striking at the root. Where is the jurisdiction? I know you guys think this is illegal, but where is your jurisdiction to even investigate me?
Well, sorry, I confused you. What I meant was just that's an example as for marijuana, how that's legal. I'm still talking about the income tax. So you said it's legal, but it's immoral, it's unethical. So where's the case here? How do we fight it off?
Well, it's like I was talking at the beginning of the show when I was questioning these IRS agents and these other tax agents with the state. They believe, and we'll use the Franchise Tax Board. It's the same thing in New York. The tax people, just like the cop, believe that if you're physically in New York, the laws apply, and that if you have money, that they have jurisdiction to require you to pay them and file a return. So it all goes back to the exact same presumption. Oh, he's here in New York, the laws apply. I say, let me see the evidence. So, so at the beginning of the show, I was going through some of the, the questions that I was asking them, and the best that they can do is, so you're asking for facts, and they say, well, that's the way it works. Well, that's not proof of anything other than bad faith.
I got you. I'm going to re-listen to the beginning of the show because I only caught you like 10, 15 minutes in. But really quickly for like the end of the discussion. So what would the person who's been exempt from paying the taxes before he gets any type of correspondence from the IRS, what should be done and what should be done after he gets something, if he gets something?
Well, what's the something? Is it a withholding order, or is it where is your tax return?
Well, I'm trying to see hypothetically before anything is received.
Oh, before anything is received?
Something preliminary to be done? Yeah.
There's really nothing you can do but to wait for the shoe to fall, if they generate. Because the IRS is getting they're going to be, the employer is going to be reporting to the IRS and to the state criminals in Albany every single year. They're going to be doing a W-4 or a W-2, whatever the hell it is, or 1099. They're going to do it.
Yeah, W-2. Mm-hmm.
So what I would make sure is that I keep as little money in a bank as possible. I would not have anything in my name. So if there was something where things really went bad and it escalated, that it's not nearly as easy for them to seize, and steal my property. Other than that, there's really not much you can do. And if you're, just know that if they send that document, where's your tax return, get your butt on the phone. This is something that I help with too. And I have an example of this that we got 6 years dropped, where we started right from the first form letter. Where's your tax return? And so if you think this is an error, so we called them up and we walked them through the questions. So your agency is operating under the presumption that if I'm physically in New York, your laws apply and you have jurisdiction to require a tax return. And well, yeah, that's the way it works. Whether you're in New York or...
Yeah, that's the videos. Yeah, that's the videos you put up. I seen those calls. Those are really informative.
Yeah, and so what we're doing is we get the agent's name, we ask the questions. When they're not able to provide any evidence, then we follow up in writing and we want it abated. And you can even say to them on the phone, wouldn't it be prudent to, this is very big for these. Again, this is some, after they come after you. You always want to make sure that the computer process is stopped. You want a stay of the computer process until they can provide the evidence, okay? And most of the time, we're able to get that. That's why I'm saying it's so important to start at the very first form letter. Don't let it escalate, because the more it escalates, the worse it gets. Once it escalates, to them, it's written by the hand of God himself. So they're immovable once it escalates. But at this point, not nearly as much. So we get to stay on the computer process, and usually what we'll get then is a 45-day letter. Hey, we got the information that you provided. There's nothing for you to do. We're going to do our investigation. We need, it's going to be so many more weeks. And then sometimes we get 2 or 3 of those, and they wind up as, they dropping it. Or we have an open-ended stay of proceedings. Well, we don't care how long they take.
Got it.
That's a big one. Get that computer.
Very much for you. Yeah.
Get that computer process stayed. So, but keep, look at, and when you are hearing these things about the secured party creditor, you got to ask some probing, leading questions to analyze why they think this is true. And you want to see some proof that that is true. And then they're not going to be able to do that. This accepted for value stuff, that there's a treasury account based off your birth certificate that's worth billions. I mean, just on the face, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that even if it was $1 million account. Really? $1 million? I know the Fed can just print it. I get, but everyone has millions of dollars in this account? Oh, no. It's ludicrous on its face and upon any investigation. So let me at least, encourage you to ask questions, leading questions, and have people verify that what they're saying is true.
All right. Thanks a lot. Hopefully you'll let me call in the future.
Sure. You're always welcome to call.
Thank you, Marc. Take care.
I appreciate the call, Poopy from Brooklyn. A lot of jokes we can make about that, but I will refrain from doing that. There was something that I had forgotten, and I'm glad that we were talking. I was talking to Don about talking to Brooklyn Paisan about the stay of proceedings with the computer. This is really, really important. Most of the success that I have had with the IRS in the last 10 years has been because we got a stay on the computer process. I cannot begin to tell you how important that is to stop that computer. And I think they know, especially the Franchise Tax Board, because I can't believe I forgot some of the most dishonest stuff from the calls today. I've been trying to get back with collections. See, now after the Franchise Tax Board, they're always telling me that that they don't want it recorded because it's a policy, an internal official policy, which is always numbered. So when they say it's a policy, get the number. You want to verify. Everything they say, and this is for you, Popey in Brooklyn, everything they say is a lie. So you question them on it. So I told Andy I wanted to record the call. He absolutely refused. He had me on speakerphone, and I didn't even think to ask of how many other people were in the room listening to that. It's not important. But he absolutely, that's why I don't have any audio of that call. He absolutely refused to allow me to record him. And so I asked him. Now, he's the lawyer, legal department. Every time you ask a tough question with these Franchise Tax Board collection and whatnot, all these other, you got to go to legal. Got to go to the legal department. I asked him, since he refused to be recorded, I said, hey, is that an official internal policy of the Franchise Tax Board to not allow phone calls to be recorded? He said, I don't know. I'm assuming it is. I said, well, maybe you can get me that number. So I had none of the agents that I spoke to this week that said it was policy have been able to get me that number. I actually got a San Diego call here, but let me just finish. I'll be with you just a moment. How friggin' dishonest these Franchise Tax Board people are. And maybe it's someone from the Franchise Tax Board calling me. That would be sweet. We had a 60-day stay of proceedings that we got like 30 days ago, 32 days ago. The agent confirmed stay, 60 days. We don't want to do it when we did a protest request. Now I'm figuring it's been 10 years since I've done that. Maybe a lot of people have changed. Maybe there's new people at the Board of Equalization. There's new people. Maybe it's worth a shot doing. We'll give it a shot. And when you put in a protest request, it stops everything anyway. You don't even need to stay proceedings, but we had it. Unfortunately, within those 60 days, they escalated, despite the fact that we had a stay, which leads you to believe one or two things happened. The agent lied that he didn't put a stay, and he didn't put a stay on because you can't get their last name, and they don't want to give you any identifying information for these crooks. Prove that we had a stay. Oh, because that's why you don't want to record it, because now we can't prove it. It's my word against yours. So we either lied about giving us a stay, or they just escalated it with a stay on there and breached the policy a second time. And they denied a hearing. So way to go, Franchise Tax Board. You guys, keep giving yourselves a pat on the back that you're the good guys. You can't even follow your own policy. You're going to blame that on me being an anarchist? That's my fault? Oh, because I called and harassed you? All right, we're going to squeeze in another call here. Area code 619, you're live on the big show. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Marc from San Diego. What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing? I'm sorry I can't make Libertopia. Are you going to be there?
I really wanted to, but the only reason I was going to go is because you were going to be there so I could talk to you, huh?
Talk to me. Yeah, well, you can talk now.
Well, yeah. I've got a few things going on legally here in San Diego. I got one little issue with the feds wherein I was in a parking lot. I was there till after it closed. This was at Cabrillo National Monument. This U.S. Park Ranger came up, said that she saw a can in my trash can in my van, right? And it just kind of slowly escalated from there. First there was her. Then there was her and like 2 DHS agents. Then there was her and 6 DHS agents. And then there was her and 6 DHS agents and 2 MPs. All because I didn't want to get out of my car and answer questions. So I finally, after a lot of coercion, finally gave her my name. And she called the SDPD. Fortunately, there are a couple of cops that I knew because I'm kind of in a couple of issues with those fellas too. And they know that I do my homework on the law. I use your techniques a lot, though.
Cool.
Actually. And what ended up happening is I even had to call my dad. So my pop comes down. He kind of diffuses the situation a little bit. So I noticed Dad. I jumped out of the car, locked it up. They made me leave my car there because I didn't have a valid license. And I left. We had to come back in the morning with my dad, with another friend in his vehicle so that he could drive my vehicle out of the lot. It was just a big pain in the ass. So they issued, or she wrote a couple citations. And the citations was for California law that she's not supposed to be enforcing anyway. But it's a big, long list of effery, with these people. And so I'm using a jurisdictional issue. I also am using some of the information that I ascertained through the Title 49 USC, Title 49 CFR, and Title 18 USC, by the way, and some of the California state statutes to get some statutory definitions together about, this CDL is basically just a Class A, B, or C license, and it doesn't matter.
You're not going to get too far on it. I don't think you'll get very far on legal definitions.
Right. There's other stuff involved, I can through the vehicle code in California, through the civil liability section, that's where they screw themselves and imply that there's a contact by using the word consent. Then you go down into the what is it, civil code, I believe it is, and the commercial code and the civil code, actually. The commercial code in contracts, as distinguished from agreement, means the total legal obligation that results from the parties' agreement as determined by this code and supplemented by other applicable laws. And I go through, and because the DMV is responsible for handling these contractual obligations, without this full disclosure being made, they've, in a sense, vitiated the contract from the get-go. I know.
You're not. I don't think I'm completely out of time, and I have an appointment that I've got to get to after this. So I'd have to address it more on the Saturday broadcast where we have more time. I just don't think you're going to get anywhere on the contract side. So even when they talk about implied consent, it's not contractual. That they do that so that they can justify under due process other things that they want to do. So they imply it's consent so that they can do summary proceedings against you in court as opposed to a full-blown trial, with all the, due process protections. So they say, whoa, 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 you agreed to this.
Right.
So,
well, just to tie a little knot, I just went ahead and wrote out a counterclaim for these feds so they can untie that knot, and then we'll move accordingly on that.
That's something that came up. That also came up today, and I wish you luck with that. I don't see it really going too far, unless the rules allow in those type of proceedings, traffic type things, a counterclaim. Which one, you can't do that at all in a criminal context. Period. There's no discussion there, at least in the United States. But you'd have to look at the rules. I know they have their separate rules for traffic type stuff, and if they don't permit counterclaims, it's always worth doing if you've got solid grounds, but I wouldn't see it going too far.
I just wanted to point out, the violations of their own corporate bylaws to them, and then let them untangle that knot.
Yeah, well, do that. I would do that. I wouldn't. Because
I'm not trying to claim that either.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it that way. I would do it just through the motion to dismiss and put in the due process violations in there. Let them chew on that and see if you can get anywhere. I am totally out of time, so I do need to let you go. To give us an update and some more information on the Saturday show, okay?
Will do. All right, Mark. It was good talking to you, bro.
Appreciate the call. We got that was Mark in San Diego. I guess I should edit that. So yeah, and it sucks that I'm not able to make Libertopia, which starts tomorrow at Humphreys by the Bay, and it's just one of those things. I'm missing the Friday night jam with the guys, and I'm hoping they're not too irritated with me that I'm not able to make that. But I don't have an extra $600-700 laying around to be able to do that. I was hoping to get it timed so that my time in California, like last week and in 2 weeks from now, would have coincided, but with all the hospital stay, the things in the hospital, the medical stuff, and the trips to Scott, it just didn't work out that way. Because the only way I was able to do it before was because I was going to be driving from San Bernardino to San Diego for the 3 days. And it would have just, would have been a little difficult pinch as far as the gas being $4 a gallon. $4. I apologize there. I'm really sorry. I mean, I wanted to go. Even though my main motivation was just to see people like Marc and Bill and the guys from Barnwell Swift and play some blues. That was my main reason, to go. And not that I didn't want to do the other stuff, but my big thing, I want to play some blues. But we'll get, hopefully we'll get out there again soon. So somebody's asking here, are you new to the show? Yes, I do play guitar. I have the trusty Les Paul here. And I play bass also. But yeah, I like playing the Les Paul a lot more. So hopefully we get something. We get something local here where I can do the show once a month and be able to, meet everybody and do the role playing in person, which is always nice. But I'm totally out of time. I do have to help somebody with a court case going on. Hopefully it's not tomorrow. But it's been episode 63 of the No Stay Project here on my YouTube channel. It will be up, of course, at markstevens.net. And I'll probably have the good video with the graphics that I want to add like I did the last time again. So don't get married to this particular live stream, even though it looks pretty good. But it was episode 63 for May 2nd, 2018, live from the Fortified Compound in Mesa, Arizona. And just to summarize, don't feel intimidated because people are lawyers and they're making these accusations. And okay, they can't prove their accusations are true. Again, lawyer from the Franchise Tax Board, Andy Maura. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. Would you accept that from a heart surgeon? Well, that's just the way the heart works. If that's the only thing he could tell you, he couldn't tell you anything about the atrium, or he couldn't tell you anything about the aorta, he couldn't tell you anything, didn't even know what, myocardium is. No, of course not. That's just the way it works. There's not an answer. And it certainly shouldn't be what you preface taking someone's salary and their money from them. It's not something you preface economic destruction on. Honest people with a moral compass who understand right and wrong do no harm, live honestly, injure no one, give every man his due. They understand that is not an answer. That's the way it works. That's the way criminals work. And if you disagree, join me on the live broadcast and show where the logic and facts are wrong. But hey, till next time, salute.